All right, so in this lecture, we are finally going to get to start adding some photo textures. This part's really fun, it gets really exciting, and we get to see this really start to come to life. This is where it really starts to look photoreal. So I have here a folder that you will be able to download that has all of the photo textures we're going to be using. And these are all free, royalty-free stock images that I found online. And we're going to go ahead and start this part, this nice elephant butt right in our face. And here's how we're going to add these. So I'm going to get my selection tool, my lasso tool here. I'm going to find a piece of this image that I want to use. So use about like that. Oops, let's grab that a little better. There we go. Then we're going to copy it. We're going to come down here on top of our secondary light layer, make a new layer, and then we're going to paste it with Command V. Now I can go ahead and turn off this layer. I don't need that anymore. And now we just have this. So first what we're going to do, we're going to lower the opacity to probably about 35, 36, 37, around there. We're going to hit the transform tool. I'm going to come up here to, well, let's place that. We're going to come up here to image, adjustments, go to exposure. And we're going to bring the gamma up. Which going to make it a little bit darker. Actually, I almost forgot. Before we do that, we're going to come to our hue and saturation. We're going to kind of try and match this a little bit closer to what we have. So, going to bring up the saturation there. It's a little bit redder. Now we're going to go to that exposure there. Bring up that gamma. Bring up the exposure, which is just going to increase that contrast for us so we really get that texture. All right. Then we can use our transform tool to size this. This is the part we're going to put right on his nose. So let's go ahead and size that how we want it. Maybe make it a little bigger. Then we can hit warp. I'm going to zoom in here so we can see what we're doing a little better. We hit warp and we're going to grab these points and we're just going to bring them in, and we're going to sort of imagine that we're wrapping this around the shape of his nose. So bring this in. All right. So bring that in there. We want those wrinkles to sort of follow what we've got going on with the wrinkles already there. So we're going to move them up so they have that curve to them. All right, excellent. Then once we're happy, we hit enter. But now you can see that we still have sort of this rough edge. It looks kind of weird. So we're going to get our eraser tool. I have a soft brush selected. Turn the opacity down to about 68%. And we're just going to brush out the edge of that texture with a soft brush. So we don't have a hard edge there on it. Make sure we don't have any of the texture showing up on the horns or on this guy's finger here. There we go. Our texture is now in place. So it still might look a little bit weird. So some things we can do, for example, we want to keep our shadows pretty dark. So we're going to erase out in the shadows here. And then what we're also going to do later in another lecture is add highlights back on top of this texture. But for now, we're gonna leave it at that. So let's go ahead and do another one, and then I'll time lapse the rest, so we don't have to watch the whole thing. Let's see, what part do we want to do next? Let's do his ear. I have an idea that I want to try at the ear. Let's see if it's gonna work or not. We're gonna use this deer image here. So I'm gonna come up here with my selection tool. I'm gonna just grab the inside of this guy's ear here. We are going to copy, come down here, make a new layer, paste, and we're going to be doing all these textures on their own individual layers, but then once we're done, we'll be merging them all together. So let's go ahead and hit the transform tool, zoom in here, go ahead and size that down a bit. Then we're going to lower the opacity on this one. We're going to keep the opacity a little bit higher on this since we're going to be kind of replacing what we have in the ear. So let's come down here, hit enter for now. Adjustments, hue and saturation. We're going to try and line this up color-wise with what we already have. It's probably be easier if we have the opacity back on. All right, there we go. So let's go with right about, let's go here, I think, be good. We're gonna lower the saturation. Now we can lower the opacity back down. Image, adjustments, exposure. Bring the gamma up. Bring the exposure up. Hit OK. And then once again, let's size this a little bit closer to where it's going to be. And then we're going to do warp. And we're just going to try and sort of match this to the outline we have of the ear already. Is the plan here. All right, excellent. And then we'll go ahead and get our eraser tool. Do the same thing on any parts that need a little bit of a softer transition. All right, and there we go. Now we have a photorealistic ear right into our painting. We didn't have to paint any of that fur or anything. And if we need to, we can kind of slide this around where we want to. Like maybe we want some more of the ear to show up underneath like that. Or maybe we want less. I don't think we want to go full because it doesn't quite match what we have in our scene right now. But we can bring it down to, I think, probably right about there looks good. And then I'm just going to come back with my eraser tool again and clean up this bottom edge here. All right, so I can use that same ear image for the other ear, which is what we're going to do, but we're going to go ahead and time lapse this And we'll be back here in a minute, and when we get to another section, I can give you some tips and stuff. But for now, we're going to time lapse for a little bit, because this process can take a while. So I will talk to you guys in a minute. All right, I'm time lapsing.
Okay.
This part is the funnest part, even though it takes a long time. It just starts to look so good. Alright, so I've started moving down to work on the log here, and I've got most of the skin done. We're going to keep working across this. We've got the tail, we got the claws, we got his little wing things, and we have these little creatures, and we're also going to do the horns. But you can see how it's really starting to come together and start to feel alive and get some really nice textures in there.